Meantime, when school doors open this fall at Clarksville High School in Arkansas, teachers and staff will be armed with guns, locked and loaded and ready to fend off an intruder after getting 53 hours of weapons training. The small town of Clarksville is the first district in the state to arm teachers who will be considered security guards on campus, which is permitted under state law. The plan is reigniting the debate over how best to protect children in school. I'm joined by Kim Russell, National Director of Outreach for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
What we heard after Newtown from the Clarksville superintendent was this, that the plan that they were given was not going to work, that to lock your doors, turn off the lights, and hope for the best was not a solution. And the NRA called the idea of arming schools the best answer possible. What's your reaction to what's going on?
Well, I think it's interesting. After Columbine, the NRA said that there should be no guns in school. So I think that's interesting that their mind has changed on this. I think adding guns to schools will create a less safe environment. Statistics show that a gun in the home is 22 times more likely to be used in homicide, accidental shooting, and suicide. So I feel that the risk involved in having a gun in a school are far greater than the benefit.
So what are the answers? Because, I mean, you certainly understand the disquiet that was caused, to say the least, for parents who thought that they could send their kids in. And you've talked to the parents from Newtown. I've talked to the parents from Newtown. Day like any other day, you drop your kids off at school and you assume that they're safe. And what happened was so horrific. So what is the answer then?
The answer we can start is with background checks. 90% of Americans want to see them happen. If we try to prevent guns from being in the wrong hands in the first place, then we won't need to arm our schools.
So how do you change this? Because 90% of Americans after Newtown wanted background checks. Republicans came out for background checks, and yet nothing has been done on the federal level. Do you still keep fighting on the federal level? Are you moving the fight to the states?
Both. And we're fighting hard. And what we're going to do is eventually vote out the people who don't agree with us, because 90% of Americans want to see this happen. We have plenty of responsible gun owners who belong to our organization and realize the need for common sense gun legislation.
Do they have an idea, a strategy to use for convincing some of these members of Congress that they need to change their vote besides voting them out?
Well, we're calling them an awful lot, and it seems to be having an effect. We're also going to be hosting lemonade stands all over the country for the month of August when they're on recess. We're going to let them know we're here to stay. There is no Connecticut effect here. Our moms are in this fight to win it. And, you know, our first priority is to protect our children. Teachers do not want to be armed. Their job is to nurture and educate our children. That job will be greatly hindered if they have the anxiety and the responsibility of having a gun.
It's very personal for you. Obviously, you're a survivor of gun violence. That you and a friend were shot by an armed robber, and in fact, your friend was killed. And I'm wondering, was there a time when it went through your head, if only I'd had a gun, if only my friend had had a gun, we could have...
You know, it never did, until a radio host suggested that had I had a gun, I could have saved my friend. This was very hard for me to hear, because as a survivor, I felt pretty guilty already. I know that in that instance, if I had been armed, I would be dead now. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that when one is faced with extreme danger, your mind does not work in ways you think it will. What happens is your body is coursing with adrenaline, your hormones are surging, and you are moving into fight or flight mode. You are sending all of your energy into your muscles to react. So your day-to-day things that you do subconsciously, your motor skills, they leave. They're gone. Your brain isn't working. So our law enforcement are trained over and over again to handle, you know, these tactical situations where there's an active shooter. Arming a teacher, they are not going to have that kind of training. It's just not possible to understand what you're going to do in that situation. When I was faced with that situation, in hindsight, I did everything wrong, but I thought I was doing everything right.
Well, let me just say, I don't know who that radio host was, and people can have legitimate disagreements about these issues, but to suggest that somehow you could have saved your friend is so beyond the pale, I don't even know what to say about it. Great to have you in. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. Come back again. Kim Russell. Thank you. For Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America.